I want to tell you guys the true story of Archimedes and how he figured out a way to find the volume of something that was shaped strangely. So, at the time, the Greeks had figured out how to find the volume of a cube or a pyramid, cone, rectangular solid. All those classical geometric solids, they knew how to figure out the volumes of those things. And many of you also know how to figure out those things. But the challenge that Archimedes had was to find the volume of something that was strangely shaped. For example, a weirdly shaped rock. And he couldn't figure out how to do it for a long, long time. According to history, he sat down in a bathtub to think about it. And what he noticed that when he sat in the bathtub, the water level in the bathtub went up a bit. And he was so excited that he figured out how to do this that he ran naked through the streets, yelling Eureka, which means, I've got it, I figured it out. So today, if you want to find the volume of a rock, you put it in a pre-measured, in a beaker that has, volumetric measurements on it. You put the rock in the beaker, you see how much the volume of the water goes up, and that's the volume of the rock. Now, here's why this is important. Archimedes was a great scientist, a great thinker, a great mathematician, and he didn't know how to do this problem. And then in this moment, he figured it out, right? And anyone who's a math major or a physics major will tell you that that's something you do a lot in math. You don't know how to do the problem at all. At all. You have no idea. You're just stuck and you're thinking about all kinds of things and suddenly you figure it out, right? Or you suddenly figure out some tiny little piece. Those of you who either are or know computer programs, you know it's about the same, right? You have a puzzle, you don't know how to figure it out, and then you figure it out, right? Engineers are the same. They don't know what to do for a long time, and then suddenly they figure out some piece of it, and that leads to another piece of it, and leads to another piece of it. So in a lot of knowledge, it doesn't come from somebody telling you what to do and then you doing it. See, that's not really learning how to think, right? That's learning how to obey. It's basically factory slave style education. The real skill that you want to develop in education is the ability to figure out stuff, right? So how do you figure something out? How do you develop that ability? Well, the biggest thing, I'm going to tell you the biggest thing when it comes to figuring things out, and I've figured out a few things in my life, not anything on the scale of Archimedes, but I figured out a couple things in my life. The key to figuring stuff out is time. People who figure things out, more difficult problems, they just spend more time with them. Most people in the world are honestly, I know there's all this hype about A students and B students and high IQ and low IQ. I've worked with thousands of students, and honestly, most people are about the same level of intelligence. The only real difference between people who are so supposedly smart and people who are not that smart is that smart people just, because they're so sure that they're going to figure it out, they'll stick to a problem longer. With computer programming, I'm not that good at computer programming, but I stick to a problem for a long time until I make it work. And the same thing with math. I'm persistent. And that's one of the things we want to teach you guys to be at Vora Method is just stick with the problem. Keep thinking about it. You're not going to know the formula before you start. Just like Archimedes, he didn't know how to do it before he started. And all the great innovations in the world, they come from not knowing how to do something and then just keep sticking with it. Believe that you can do it. Now, here's a nice thing for you guys. With Archimedes, he didn't know if you could do it or not, right? But we're going to choose for you problems that we know you can do. But you just got to stick with them, right? Don't give up after 5 or 6 seconds. People know that Japanese students are, on average, better at math than American students. And here's the reason. They did an interesting experiment that showed why this happens. They gave American math students and Japanese math students an impossible problem. There's no way to actually solve the problem. It couldn't be done. The American students, they gave up after a few seconds. The Japanese students, they stuck with it for hours. The difference is not one of intelligence. It's just one of persistence. So throughout Vora Method, you're going to be given a lot of problems that seem like you don't know how to do them. And it's true. Right now, you don't know how to do them. And you're going to figure out how to do them. You're going to develop new things. And that's real education. That's the process of learning how to come up with the new things. And that's the purpose of a real, intense, advanced education.